welcome to What the Hex, your source for Warhammer Underworlds and under 30 spells cast at just exactly the time you wish they didn't go off. I'm your co-host, Davey, and with me I have my longtime co-host and caster of said spells, Phil. How are you, Phil?
Hey, I'm doing all right.
Yeah?
Nurgle's decided to gift me some blessings, but I'm holding in there.
Well, tell me this, was it Nurgle or was it the Plague Pack?
Ooh, well,
Ooh.
could be some sneaky, dirty rats.
Yeah, how's your household been corrupted?
Yeah.
Well, that kind of gives away a little bit our context. It is July 10th. We are recording after the reveal of the upcoming Chaos Warband, the Plague Pack. I'm going to blank on the leader's name, but it's the Clan Pestilence Warband. Did not see that coming. Very excited though.
Not at all.
I think that's fun. I've never been like a huge Skaven guy, but man, I mean, Underworlds, it's really hard for them to do any wrong with their miniatures. That warband looks really rad. So
yeah, I mean, I'm also not a huge fan of Skaven, and Pestilence of the Skaven things is probably my least favorite of the Skaven. But I mean, they're still really cool models, and I love that they were able to like just include a regular rat in there. Like it's always fun when there's the little pet models. So definitely appreciate what's going on there.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how they play out. I mean, we have a lot to cover, so I'm not going to try and linger too long in our opening here. But what I've found, I spent our league season here, like some of it bringing warbands, trying to increase our warband representation for the league, and some of it like trying to do a deep dive on stuff. And gosh, what I love about this game is there's so much depth. Like I'm never bored. Like I can be like, I feel like I've played this a lot. Let me try out this warband. I mean, there's so many warbands now. There's so many play styles. Like there's so much to explore. And every time a new warband comes around, I'm excited to explore them too. So, yeah, I'm looking forward. We don't know when they'll be out, but obviously we'll be talking to you about them when they do.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, we're gonna gloss over. It's just you and me. We're gonna gloss over the what the hex has been going on with you. Our local league is coming to a head. Final week is coming up. I think I snuck into there by virtue of Jazz is traveling, so I got to steal her spot. Jazz, my nemesis, she beat the crud out of me with a little Ephelims. Ephelims have really been making an impact on our league. So we'll see. And I can say this here because this episode won't go live until after the final week. I'm considering, I don't know how people are going to feel about this, I'm considering doing like a little bit of a counter build because I know that we're looking at Skylar, Josh, and Brian I think are filling out the other top three. And we got Ephelims, and Pingifiers. So it is all about the pings, what I'll be running into. So immunity to pings, and I know they want to hold, like they will all have a temporary victory equivalent. So disrupting that sort of thing. Think of it this way: like it's a microcosm meta, right? I've got a really good sense of what I might be facing, and so I think it's the idea of like. Understanding the meta. Do I lean into it? Do I play counter? So I'm looking at some options. Maybe there's some cool worm spat builds rolling around that I've tried, and there's a. It might even be fun to go back to Hexbane's Hunters, who have a universal, or not a universal, but like a warband wide, and then a character specific upgrade that makes them immune to pings, which might be just the edge I need. So we'll see.
Definitely some fun stuff. I've missed out on just like happenstance, not even anything going on really. It's just like happenstance every week. I've just had something come up, and I've missed most of our league, but I've had a lot of fun puzzling out Stormcoven, which
oh man,
segue there a little bit, but and I'm feeling like I'm starting to get into the groove with them.
I think you are,
and I would have liked to test them into some more stuff during the league, but they've been performing well. I know I've won most of the last few games I've played, although I haven't played a lot of games. So I mean,
Well,
they're doing work.
the ones I was involved with, maybe forefront in your mind. We got to play a couple. I feel like I feel kind of a mixture of like, as a co-host, like I'm kind of proud of like how you've sort of worked with them and built them and figured them out. Like that's a fun process to go through. A little jealous because I think that was like a fun thing to be able to do, and a little antagonized because I've played against them in like any warband that's played very well or built very well or both can feel like, oh man, like they are just clicking. It is hard to work against them, but yeah. But yes, we are, as promised in the last episode where there was a live build of the Headsman's Curse. I was not part of that. It was you, Skylar, and Josh put something together. We're going to be coming at you today with a battle report from them. A little bit more on that in a second. We're going to do a quick community shout out. Starting off with our local is doing our quarterly tournament. Skylar doing heroes work, getting those things on. It is championship format. It's on the 13th of August. That's a Sunday. We're going to try and get as many folks in as we can, gather folks from the surrounding areas, and just see. And we've done Nemesis. We kind of rotate formats, so we'll do that. Looking forward to that. Phil, you think you're going to be there?
That's the plan. It's on the calendar. I shouldn't have anything else going on. The only thing is I'll be the week before, I believe. Let's see. I think the week before I'll just be coming back from Colorado. So it'll just be like maybe there'll be something that's blowing up at work, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to be there, and I'm excited to try out some of the builds that I've had and not really been able to play.
Well, asking for a unrelated reason, a friend, you don't know him, but he lives in Canada. Are you bringing Domitan Stormcoven?
I'm strongly considering it. I have not played.
Duly noted. Let me see what I can do.
I haven't played Stalkers yet at all since the majority of Weird Hollow has been out.
Yeah. How bad does it burn you that when Skylar publishes, here's the warbands that have not been played in our league so far, Starblood Stalkers still are on that list?
Well, it really is just a dig at me, right? Because it's like, hey, you haven't come out and played them yet. So I have a champs list that's almost done for them, and I've been meaning to play them, but I've been saying, I've been workshopping these other guys, and that isn't to say that I don't think Starblood still have legs. I just took a break from them. But yeah, definitely have them always going. There's always something going with the Starblood.
All right.
So,
well, the only other community shout out I want to make sure to hit was Fish Mode's blog. That's Spent Glory. And here's what we love about other people creating content is when people can find a niche and really occupy that, is something that people that other spots are not covering. And one thing that I wish we could do a little bit better job of is like focusing on the experience for new players. And that's what the Spent Glory blog has really been leaning into in a major way. So it's a great set of articles for either new players or communities that are trying to attract new players. So there's articles like, can I use this old warband? That's something for returning players, right? Like I'm coming back and I've got my Thorns of the Briar Queen. Like I sure would like to be able to use this warband. Can I do it? What do I need to do to be able to play it next?
Right.
Multiplayer game nights. There's if I'm trying to go from Rivals onto Nemesis, what does that look like? Those are questions that we legit get on our Discord, and a big thanks to the people who show up and are there because they listen to this podcast. That's really a rewarding experience when you show up on the Discord and mention it in the welcome. But I really love what Fish Mode is doing here. It's a great resource for the community. And if you, wherever you are, if you are trying to work on your local, this is a resource you need to have in your back pocket, and you need to be able to point your new players to. So tip of the hat to Fish Mode.
Yeah, really solid. And if you would like to see more content from us about new player topics, we can do more. I think we just tend to gravitate, being experienced players, the things we like to do, we tend to gravitate towards, competitive builds,
sure,
and battle reps and stuff. But like, yeah, it's not, that's not everybody, and that's not where everyone's at. And it's important to let us know so we know how to meet you there.
Yeah. Good or bad, we love getting feedback, whether it's constructive criticism or other positive feedback, because we're trying to make content that is positive for the community. And you out there, you listening right now, you are the community. So let us know what you want to hear. Otherwise, we're just going to keep jamming on what we like to do. And Phil, that's playing games. You and I, we played us some games. So
sure did.
Let's talk about one of those games.
Let's do it.
So we took that Headsman's Curse, and one of the things that I've mentioned before is like with our little bigger stable of personnel, we try to get more games in. So I think previously when we tried to do these, it would just be one game, however good or bad it was, that's what we got. We had some, I mean, I'm not going to lie, we had some serious scheduling challenges with this. And I take an aside to say thank you for making this happen, because we're going to continue to get an episode out on time thanks to you powering through some illness and all that sort of thing. But we played Headsman's Curse. I took Rippas. I'm always a fan of bringing back Rippas, and Diablerist performed very well with them in the last Vassal Brawl. So I straight up stole his build. You and I played a game, and that it was not a terrible game. It did end up a little bit one-sided. I think it was kind of decided a little bit like halfway through. It was pretty in the books at that point.
Yeah, but, it was one of those where kind of the chance at actually coming back once Rippas got going, it was like, man, the things would have to go so poorly for you that the chances of me actually being able to show up for the rest of this game seem very small.
Yeah. So we put that game in our back pocket. We said, like, if that needs to be our game that we do for the podcast, then we will do it. But let's see if we can get another one. And it turned out that the next people in our pool of players that was able to try another one was once again you and me. And I think maybe I called it. I think we threw out some options like Ephelims. We were trying to do something that was sort of meta relevant. Ephelims or Stormcoven. I was like, hey, look, like you're comfortable with Stormcoven. Let's just do that. Let's see what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And so I took control of the Headsman's Curse, the deck that I was not part of building, which gave me a convenient excuse if I lost terribly.
Yep.
Because I didn't know it very well. But one thing about playing on online, which is how we played this, is that I can kind of keep the deck list open and just kind of scan through it and like, all right, remind myself of like what I should be doing. I should have done that a little bit more. We'll get to that in a little bit, but yeah, a little bit of a little bit of Stormcoven versus Headsman's. What thoughts did you have going into this game about this matchup? I would say specifically.
Yeah, so it's not a matchup that I've seen much. To be frank, the only time I've actually seen this warband before was when I was playing it into Rippas.
Yeah.
So I didn't quite know what to expect, but I knew from that game that it really, everything gravitated around the wielder. And if I let you get going with the wielder, I was probably going to lose fighters that were, if not absolutely key, it would just be like bad to start losing fighters too soon. So I was trying to take advantage of, being able to sort of do the keep away game until I had somebody up and running in like, you'll kind of see later, this deck kind of works as a Voltron where it doesn't matter which one of the fighters actually gets the upgrades. You sort of let that happen naturally as the game progresses. The early turns, you're just trying to be advantageous with your actions. And then once you start to see sort of where the board is developing, you're like, okay, I can pile it all into this person, which my preference is often that end up being Leona, because she is flying and she ends up being faster and having more damage with her ranged attack than the other two.
Well, and faster because specifically, and you pointed this out to me in the game, is like her inspired ability is like friendly fighters are at +1 move,
Right.
which includes her, because not other friendly fighters, it's friendly fighters. So
yes, which pushes her all the way up to 5. So 5 with flying, you can be with range 2 and 3. So like you're threatening the whole board with her.
Yeah.
And you can really position wherever you need to. So that's, the idea was like, okay, I don't want to let you get going with the snowball with the wielder. So I was just trying to sort of sandbag until it was time to start making moves.
And for me, I really didn't have a lot to go off of. I knew that there was this was a Fearsome Fortress Headsman's build. So I was going to try to occupy the middle and then punch back. I knew, having edited the last episode, I knew the idea was like a counter punch build. So that's kind of what I was going with. That I think is potentially challenging against a warband that everyone has range 2 and range 3 attacks.
Very.
A true counterpunch build would be one that is happy to sit in its own territory, but a Fearsome Fortress build wants to move forward to the middle, which really opens a warband up to like just getting pummeled by, like you just kind of advance into the range of 1 or more. It's very easy for the ranged warband to just kind of focus in on whoever wandered forward. So on the flip side, I knew you only were starting with 12 wounds, 13, and I could chip away that with against that pretty easily. So that's where we're at. We're gonna pick this game up. I believe that I placed the first board. I think I was worried about you positioning objectives in a way. Having played against your build before, I knew you had one that was like hold an objective in enemy territory. Some things that made that advantageous, and I just wanted to have some control over where that first objective went, to make it so you could not make that super easy, like having just something just barely over the border.
Yep.
I just wanted to make that a little bit harder for you. Some of this is also having recently played Skylar's Pingifiers, who very much like to hold objectives. I think I maybe got a little focused on that. But anyway, I threw down the Mist Marsh Tangle. And some of that was just because it's got 2 black hexes and a cover hex, all of which are cool for me because all my people are flying thanks to their ghost status. So I can go right through the blocked. I've got a couple that are starting on double dodge, so any cover is helpful there. So I thought I'd just try that out. I will say this is one of the weaker parts of my game right now, is I don't feel like I have a great grasp of what boards are good in any particular setup. You came in with one of these boards from the Ulgu seasons, right?
Yeah. It's I just checked because I don't know these names very well. It's Profane Larder. So
yeah, it's a real good one.
So for folks who don't know, which is probably most people just by name, this one has a grouping of 2 starting hexes that are mirrored. So they're like, one is right at the front line and then one diagonally just behind it. And then there's the same thing as mirrored on both sides of the board. So no matter how you line it up long ways, you can have 2 fighters right up the front. And then you have another one at the same level as that second one back. So you've got 3 fighters who can start within 1 so you have 3 fighters who can technically is within 2 of the no one's territory, and then 1 within of that line adjacent to it, which gives me reach across for the entire area that you care about for Fearsome Fortress, because deploying on those 3 spots means I can shoot into that whole territory. It also has 2 back cover hexes. If for some reason you got really aggressive, I could fall back to those. And then there's this forward lethal hex that it has, which isn't great, but I figured since flying doesn't actually protect you from being knocked into or pushed into lethal anymore, there is a chance where, like, if you're having to hang out in that front area,
Yep.
at least I can make it dangerous.
Yeah, and you having range 2 or 3 gives you more flexibility in making that happen. Like
Yep.
you can have better positioning options and still be able to like make that lethal an issue for me.
Yeah. And so with that, I decided square up the boards because I want there to be a wide range of the board for me to be able to access to get into your territory. Because like you said, I do have a few things that care about holding objectives in your territory.
Yeah.
You did a good job of stop making it so that I don't just have to barely cross over the line to do that.
Yeah.
Which was annoying, but you know, I can work around that. I've got a flying fighter. And then the rest of my objective placement, since I couldn't really put them where I wanted, I used my positioning to counter being able to put yours ideally for Fearsome Fortress, which is always something you have to do when someone's playing Fearsome Fortress.
Right. From my perspective, there's over on the left flank, I've got one objective right in no one's territory. I will eventually place a cover hex adjacent to that in my territory. And there's one more that's just over the line into yours, but that one is sitting next to a lethal, which makes it unappealing to me. So, but I've got some options there. And then obviously like some block hexes are in play, but not too worrisome. I'll cover my initial card draw first, since I'm the first one to have to choose a do-over or not. And here, again, this is my first time using this deck, which is going to sound like an excuse, but it is what it is. So I drew Loyal Allies, and this is a warband and a set of cards that I know is leaning into some support options. That felt like a pretty good surge. I was like, not like ice cold, but it felt like I can make this work. I think it was slightly more challenging. I anticipated because of your range 2 and 3. If you were range 1 and really had to like run right in my face to do stuff, like this is almost a gimme, because all it takes is you charging in and missing an attack or something like that. Tougher because you could stand off and I'd have to find a way to get close to you. So I knew like to score that I'm going to have to work. I had Conquered Domain, which is, I think it's a pretty great end phase for decks that are running Fearsome Fortress. And this is a glory, +1 glory for every feature token within 1 of no man's land that you're sitting on. And I was like, even if there's just 1, it feels pretty reliable. And then there was Path of Death, which is pretty terrible in the first round. I got to kill 2 and keep you out of my territory. It felt very unlikely to happen. In retrospect, I really wish I'd tossed this hand. It's 1 surge, 2 end phase, but I think I got a little gun shy. I think I got burned on some of these. My power hand was Scapegoat. That's the one that bumps somebody to 5 wounds, sort of synthetically, gives them a condemned and staggers them. Okay, not insanely great against you since you've got like 4, 4, and 5. I don't know, but the stagger is nothing to be sniffed at. Condemn Step Forward, which is like the confusion clone with some extra stuff. Mirror Move, which I'm a big fan. Enduring Executor, +1 wounds, that felt not super impactful in the first round. And then Cursed Boarding Pike, which it's solid all the way through. So I think I was looking at 3 gambits, 2 upgrades. So I think I'm holding this power hand, and I think I decided to hold these objectives too. And again, I think I wish in retrospect I'd swap these objectives out. What were you looking at?
Yeah, so for me, I've got a bit of an odd objective hand because I'm holding... So Channel the Storm, which is their surge for inspiring a second fighter, which is almost the perfect thing to have in your opener because you will be able to do this.
It's going to happen.
There's just no way that anyone's going to stop you in round 1 from doing that. And then Burnt Out, which a lot of the time is very simple to score if you are playing a spellcasting warband, because you'll want to be using a lot of those spells. And then Sudden Demise, which is not usually something I want unless I have the power hand to support it. And in round 1, it feels especially hard because you're going to have to set up the kill early.
Yeah.
So I didn't love that, but I felt really good about the other 2 surges. And so I felt like I can just hold this because 3 surges, I'll probably be able to, get one of them to score and then move on.
And we'll see what we draw into.
The power hand, not so great. So I've got 4 upgrades. They are Mazig's Magefish, which is a wizard only upgrade, which in this warband, it goes on anybody.
Yeah, fine. No problem.
And it is a reaction after an attack action or spell is cast. And you can, spell attack action or a spell is cast. You can either give the fighter a guard token or heal them one, which is super great.
Yeah.
Arcane Sensitivity, which is after a fighter casts a spell, you can push them 1 hex, which is like a better... what's it called? Duelist speed.
Yeah. I mean, it turns any of your gambit spells into whatever you're doing with that spell, and also a sidestep,
which is insane. But then, if you're just having to trigger this off of spell attacks, it's as good as Duelist speed, so it's fine.
Yeah, I think it needs successful, right? So
it does need to succeed, which is sort of the only downside. But there's a lot of cases where spell casting becomes trivial in this warband. Glory Seeker, which against this warband is actually okay, but not something that is crucial to have. And then Master of Ancient Lore, which I really do like to see in the opening hand. This is the one where you can react after an opponent plays a power card to draw a power card, or if they play a gambit spell, you can draw 2, which is insane to have in the first round. But 4 of those upgrades, 3 of them who aren't really doing anything in the first round, it's that's bad, and it doesn't combo well with Sudden Demise. And then I've got Pass the Mantle, which is actually pretty strong when you've got Channel the Storm, because then you can pick up Channel the Storm after 1 activation.
Oh, yeah.
Which is really cool. But I decide I should get rid of these power cards because that is too many upgrades. And I think for both Burnt Out and Sudden Demise, I would like to have more gambits.
Yeah. Strong call. All right. Well, we then proceed. You toss that out. What do you draw into?
Unfortunately, I draw into 4 more upgrades.
I remember hearing you kind of, and I was like, okay, all right. I like what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Great Strength, Abyssos Predatory Animus. This is probably one people aren't very familiar with. This is you get an innate channel while holding an objective in enemy territory, which is surprisingly busted with this warband. If you can just find a way to be on those objectives in enemy territory, sometimes your gambit spells become automatic gambits, which is really gross.
Really good.
Crown of the Storms, which is you can reroll a dice in casting rolls, which very importantly is not restricted to just their attack casts. It's all casting rolls, which is really strong. Ayara's Repelling Shield, which is both you cannot be driven back and has a reaction where after an enemy fighter ends a move adjacent to this fighter, you can stagger them. Yeah. Just flat, which you found to be very annoying. And I found it to work out really nicely in this matchup. Yep. And then the final one, I did actually manage to get a spell, and it's Ayara's Summons. This is one that is... it's a very situational push, but having an enemy push is always strong, so I like to take it. And this is just on a channel, you can choose a fighter who's within 3 hexes of the caster and push them 1 hex, but it has to be towards the caster. So balanced, I guess, in the sense that you actually have to push towards instead of just pushing any direction, but nonetheless a solid thing to have and gives me an extra spell to cast.
All right. Well, with those cards in hand, we do some deployment. I've got 2 spots that are adjacent to each other, and I just have the idea that I'd like to try out the sharpener next to the wielder, just to see if I can like boost damage. I figure if I can get the wielder up to 4 damage right away, then that makes everybody but an inspired Domitan pretty nervous about it. Gives me the one-shot ability, and that I think my idea was that it would like put additional pressure on your decision making from there on out. I'll put the scripter deep in my territory with the idea that the scripter is going to be able to charge forward and have range to a lot of stuff, to lay a condemned counter if necessary. And the bear is just in kind of midfield to help out. And bear is a solid all-rounder. What was your kind of deployment strategy?
Yeah, so once I saw how you were deploying, I didn't really want to commit anyone next to this lethal hex, so I started out by placing Domitan and Sarpon on those sort of mid-range starting places. Domitan to the right field, Sarpon to the left. Reasoning there is that Domitan's sort of the flexible fighter in this matchup. He can kind of be cleanup in however you need him to work. He's not strong in any one particular way, so you just sort of put him in the middle. Sarpon has the most damage, so I want him closest to the wielder, so there's the chance to just dive the wielder and try and take him out. And then Leona is fast, so I deployed her back actually here, rather than putting everyone aggressively, because there is the chance with your 3 damage swings from the wielder that if I'm adjacent to that lethal, you could get an early kill just because of my positioning. So I put Leona one, so she's very far to the right in the 3rd row back. And the idea there is that once I inspire her with speed 5, she can actually shoot back up and be in position when I need her to be.
Sure. We roll off. You have a free crit, and so unsurprisingly, you win it.
Yep.
You have to decide if you're taking the first or second activation. You go with the first, and tell me about why that was your choice.
Yeah, so I often lean towards wanting to make the opponent act first, but in this case,
you and me both, like to a fault. Like I have numerous games where I have made the wrong choice here because my default is to always go second.
So the reason that I chose to go first, though, is because I know that your warband is either going to need to just move forward, which is probably not really what you want given the situation with the range that I have, and then the other mode that you kind of have to operate in is being aggressive. And if you're going to be aggressive, then I should go first so I can get someone inspired, and that somebody will then be more defensive. And in this case, I'm feeling like Sarpon's going to need to be a key player here because I want that 3rd damage that he can provide. Plus, he's got a really accurate starting attack. And I see that you have the Sharpener deployed very far forward, which feels like an easy way to get some early glory.
And this is on me because I am forgetting that Sharpener is only 2 wounds. I thought that on deployment, I was like, I got the wielder at 5. Everyone else is at 3. So an error on my part right out of the gate. But you open things up with Domitan. Domitan charging forward, looking at the bearer, tossing an attack with his staff. And I actually tanked this first one. We got 1 smash to 1 dodge on the bearer, a little bit of a drive back. And this is where I all of a sudden remind myself, like, this power hand, I don't like to toss a power hand that has 3 gambits, but this confusion equivalent is going to be real tough against a small warband that doesn't even have to get next to me to attack. Like, I'm really going to have to engineer that, plus even the loyal allies to get close enough to support. But I can't complain with the first activation miss. So
Yeah. So I get the miss, and I have to decide if I want to keep you where you were or drive you back. I figure at this point, because again, I'm anticipating a more aggressive game plan. I decide to drive you back. Domitan isn't. At this point, he's pulled forward. If you choose to come after Domitan, I feel kind of okay about it, because that means you're putting somebody close to him that will potentially be able to get staggered. And at that point, I don't need Domitan to do much more. The fact that he missed means that he's kind of just hanging out there, and that's, best case scenario, he just sort of survives coincidentally. Worst case scenario, he dies, and he did what he needed to do.
Yeah.
And at this point, I decide to inspire
Leona, I think.
Yeah. Yep. So we go with Leona because Leona is going to end up needing to reposition. There's kind of a lot that can go on with her, and so I decide we'll have her get fast, and that actually opens up a couple lanes for me because it also makes Sarpon fast.
Yep. I take my first activation with I've got the Sharpener forward, already vulnerable. I'm like, yeah, it's fine. Let's bump the wielder up to 4 damage, and let's really make this kind of like a scary situation.
Yeah,
if we can. So my first activation is that just a sharpen and pass. I do like that sharpen action is like it's going to sit on you until you have a successful attack.
Yep.
That really takes the sting out of using an entire activation to do that. So, yep. But then you do go with when it's back to you, your inspired Leona comes flying forward, sits on an objective, and she's got great firing lanes here.
Yeah. So I decide she inspired. She's got 2 block, and she's got 2 damage at range. So I decide to bring her forward, put her into a slightly dangerous spot. She's on this middle objective next to lethal, but it gives me a chance to kill the Sharpener from range. So figure that's safer than throwing Sarpon forward, which was my original plan, except that the wielder is now up to 4 damage. So that feels, it's like, if I'm going to have the wielder kill Sarpon, let's make the wielder commit if he's going to do that.
Yeah. And that I recognize as a tension throughout my early turns here is like, I've got the wielder up to lethal damage in a lot of spots, but he's so key to my game plan that committing him forward is really dangerous. But you take a spell attack. I think you're attacking the Sharpener.
I am.
You get 1 success.
1 success.
And I unfortunately get none.
Nothing.
And that's enough for a one-shot kill on the Sharpener. This is where like I put 2 damage on the Sharpener, and you're like, cool, also take the Sharpener off the board. I was like, oh no.
That's right. He doesn't have 3 wounds.
Yeah. And then this is like for people who are trying to play the Stormcoven. This is where stuff gets tough. Is like, who do you inspire next?
Yep. And at this point, I now have Domitan and Leona charged. So the only real choice at this point is to move Sarpon. And I also decided at this point that Sarpon, like, because I just took out the fighter that I had originally planned for Sarpon to take out, and the bearer and the wielder, the only 2 fighters he could theoretically get to later this round, and he can't kill either of them in 1 hit anyway. So I'm going to give up on that strategy, and I'm going to use the Sarpon Inspire to move Leona into a more safe position anyway.
Yeah, and this is you getting her away from the lethal.
Yep.
And to be honest, I was not even looking because I'd already bumped up to kill damage here. I was already at 4 damage. And so I was a little surprised by this because I was like, well, I could already killed her. But if I make an attack, then I'm back down. Like I have to resharpen, and I have no sharpener. So, but it's coming up on me. And I am still reluctant to bring my wielder into it. And actually, you got one for killing. You got one for the killing and sharpener,
Yeah.
and then you also got Channel of Storm because you
Yep.
had passed the inspiration all around.
That is correct.
So we're 2 glory to 0. You spend one of them.
Yeah, I put on Repelling Shield on Domitan because I figure he's the furthest forward and he doesn't have high defense, so I expect that he's going to be the target for a lot of the attacks coming, and this gives me a way to stagger some of your fighters if they choose to come in against him.
Yep. And because I am too worried about losing the wielder early, my second activation looks like the scripture charging all the way up onto an objective. This is me occupying a spot because I'm worried you got to push. I'm worried you might have an objective in hand that will benefit you from being on this objective. So I run all the way up the scripture adjacent to Domitan to make this attack. I 100% whiff on this, but you still get a condemned counter for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I do get to then stagger the scriptor though because he moved adjacent, which I wasn't expecting, and so I was like, "Well, okay."
Yeah. This is me like maybe overthinking it, like trying to think too much what's in your hand. I think if you'd wanted to be on the objective, you probably already would have moved on there. So,
very possibly.
Yeah. Then it's over to you. You have your inspired Sarpon. You throw out the reroll. The Crown of Storms goes on Sarpon, and then Sarpon goes in on the wielder, charges onto the cover X in my territory.
Yeah. So swinging in, he's inspired. Sarpon has Grievous on his ranged attack, and he has Ensnare. And since you're on dodge for everybody, I was like, that feels like a good way to start putting some damage on this 5 wound fighter that I can't bring down in one hit anyway.
Yep. And you roll Channel Focus, and then reroll that channel into a crit, which hurts bad. Yeah, I do roll a crit, but that's a crit block, but that's not enough. So I take 2 damage on this, which really hurt my feelings.
and I was able to grab your cover that you placed on this board so nicely for me. So 2 block in cover feels nice, and now everyone's charged out, so they can start shooting again.
Yep. Yeah. And that's what I think is a particularly strong thing about this warband is with this much range, they can keep being effective pretty deep into things. So I think there was maybe a little bit of thinking whether or not you were going to drive me back. I'm assuming because Sarpon, like you, I don't know.
So I know what I was thinking. All right. So yes, I was trying to decide.
No. Let me tell you what you were thinking.
So I was trying to decide whether to drive you back to limit your charges, but then I was like, what am I talking about? He's flying speed 4. You can get at anybody you want, even if I drive him back. And you're not adjacent to me, so you're having to charge either way. And I really should be thinking about this Iara summons in my hand. And so it finally clicked after some hemming and hawing. And I was like, if he doesn't move the wielder, I can pull the wielder next to Sarpon and then have a potential 3 damage attack on the next activation.
Yep. So I'm still all right, wielder's taking 2 damage. That's a big problem for me. I know a lot of this deck runs through him, but the only person who has range is Sarpon. There's some risks there, but what I want to do is set up Domitan for a kill. So I charge the bearer over to try to chip some. I think honestly, I think I'm forgetting that Domitan doesn't actually start at 5 damage or 5 wounds.
I kind of wondered about that after a little while because I thought after a few attacks, I was like, maybe he thinks that he's got to do more than he does.
Yeah. I think I could have come in on Domitan right now with the wielder. That would have gotten the wielder to a relatively safe spot, and had the potential. Like I could have made an attack with supports, maybe gotten the kill. But I was thinking I had to set this up. I think I thought Domitan had 5 wounds, which, that happens. But the bear comes in, lands a crit for which is 2 damage at this point, because Domitan is never on more than 1 dice unless he's got something else. So I lay 2 damage in, and then we're in the power step. I pass, and you start busting out one of your few gambits in hand.
Yeah, like I was saying, if you didn't move the wielder, I was going to try for the kill shot. So I go for IR summons. Sarpon's got 2 spell dice with a reroll, so it feels pretty likely. It does, in fact, go off, and I pull the wielder adjacent, which sets up Sarpon for that 3 damage staff attack. So
yeah, and this is me forgetting that, like, I just don't know your warband well enough that adjacent. So like I literally went through this whole sequence being like, I don't always go why I'm adjacent, because like it doesn't seem very important. But
and then
I think I even said out loud, like, I don't know why you want me to be adjacent, but you probably think it's important, so I'm going to mirror move. And so I use this to shove Sarpon out of cover and out of adjacency.
Yep.
Which in retrospect guaranteed that you could not generate enough damage without power cards to kill me.
Absolutely. Stops me from getting the kill. And what you didn't know is it also stopped me from being able to score Carve a Path.
Yep. Feels good.
Yeah. But I go back to the spells because I don't know what else I'm going to do, and unload another crit success onto the wielder, because why not?
Feels bad. I rolled no defenses. Actually, you do score Carve a Path, right?
That's right.
You already succeeded. So like Carve a Path was like locked in for you.
That's right.
As long as you get Sarpon as your leader, Sarpon had charged in, successfully attacked, and then all Sarpon had to do was make one more attack. Hit or miss.
That's true. Yeah, I kind of forget sometimes that the trigger for that like extra glory can be it can happen in either order. Like you could do the first attack success, and then the second attack scores the card. Yeah, and that's exactly what happens here. So, it's a very, very strong card in this warband. I will say.
I love this inclusion. I think it's really, really great choice. This was a disastrous turn of events for me, because you put the 3rd and 4th wound on the wielder. I knew you had to have like gambits in, like I know somewhere in his deck he's got pings. I'm now like 1 away from the dying with the person who's like the most important person in my warband. I felt a little hard done by that. You'd grievous twice in a row on this. But to be fair, you had gotten rerolls on him before you'd done this, so he's essentially 2 dice fishing for rerolls to get that through. So, not out of the realm of possibility at all. Obviously, I really feel like I'm in a really dangerous spot.
You decide to use that
I did a little shuffle. Yeah,
confusion.
Yeah.
Which puts Domitan in a really bad spot.
Yeah. And this is me like really trying to like figure out, like it took a lot of work to get these cards over here. I send the wielder in. I'm now on double supports with attacks, and managed to drop Domitan and also score the loyal allies, because it took a lot of work to get the supports. What this was able to do, once Domitan is knocked out, I bring back the sharpener, which feels good. Like I was like, oh, that's kind of a fun resurrection mechanic. I'm back up to not full strength. I'm still in a really terrible spot because the wielder is 1 away from dying. But I do have the sharpener back. The sharpener is right there. Sharpener sitting in cover makes him an unappealing target. One of the things that this whole opening sequence has made me do is like abandon the left flank feature tokens. So I've basically walked away from Conquered Domain. The scoring the loyal allies got me Quick to Judge, which is needing to get 2 condemned counters out, which that's a dead card for the rest of the round. So,
Yep.
yeah. But I at least have finally made some progress. But you are continuing to power up your fighters, and especially Sarpan.
Yep. So as I mentioned before we started getting into the game, the strategy is often to wait until we sort of see how the game flows and then upgrade that fighter. There's happened to be Sarpan in this game, so great strength, and the Animus, the Predatory Animus upgrade, both go on him. Mostly this is just so I can score Burnt Out, but also because it just makes sense. Just keep powering him up. He's already started.
So he's already got the Crown of Storms. Did you consider, because Leona's sitting over here, and Leona's got she's 2 away from the Bearer and she's 3 away from the Scripter. Did you consider that like Leona may be in a better position to leverage some of these upgrades, or were you just like this reroll on spellcasting is worth me going all in on Sarpan?
Great strength probably could have gone on Leona, but I do like being able to push Sarpan all the way up to 4 damage, just so that he threatens a charge onto the Bearer for a single shot kill, and putting Leona up 1 damage, she's not as accurate. So it's sort of like, yeah, I could spread the upgrades around, but that's really the only one that makes sense on her. If I give her Abyssos Predatory Animus, I need to find a way to get her onto the only objective open in your territory to take advantage of it, which is all the way over on the left flank where she's not. And Sarpan's already got all the spellcasting stuff turned on, and one of the things that I've found is that once you get to this point, you tend to just keep that fighter inspired. You tend not to bounce back and forth, because now you've got more resources invested in a fighter. You want to keep them on 2 block.
Sure, that makes sense.
Like, let's just turbo mode with Sarpan and see how it goes.
Yep. So you do score Burnt Out on this, which is feeling tough, because you started with a hand which was upgrade heavy, but you've managed to work your way through your surges in a way that has let you play those out. And I am still struggling a little bit. I am relieved to have the chance to give the wielder an extra wound to advance him out of ping range at least. And this is a situation where I'm like, he's still extremely vulnerable to being killed, but I'm going to make you spend either 2 pings or like an actual activation to knock him out. I throw both Conquered Domain and Path of Death, just really solidifying the fact that I should not have kept both those. I get the +1 wound and the boarding pike out. The one objective I have is needing 2 condemned counters. I almost should have tossed this, because you have 2 fighters out there without any, but I do have power cards that can like just place them. I'm just trying to figure that out. I draw into. I'm in a 3 surge hand, so I actually feel like I'm in a position to maybe catch up here. I've got Bound in Servitude, which needs a kill either by a Chain Rasp or supported by a Chain Rasp. Gather Crowd, which is a 1 surge for having 3 fighters within 2 hexes of the same enemy fighter. Again, kind of tough against your warband, because you have the ability to like use range to stand off. And then Quick to Judge, which needs the 2 condemned counters. My power hand now looks like still held on to Scapegoat. Partial Resurrection, which feels real good. Cackling Nightmare, which is an upgrade that lets the Scripter attack again if he's already attacked once. There's a weird non-bow with this where this cancels out the ability to put a condemned counter out, and I will talk about that
Very,
more in a little bit.
very
Yeah.
strange. But
Yep.
yes.
Inspired Command, which I think was a great pick for this deck, and this is as long as the leader is alive, I can choose a friendly fighter other than your leader and push them 1 hex, or I can give them 1 guard token. Pretty solid. And then Death Soldiers, which is lay it out and then reduce 1 damage. And so I'm really hoping I get first activation so I can get this out right away. And what are you looking at for your cards?
Yeah, so I don't score anything in the end phase. Ended up that I didn't have enough wounds to score the superiority confirmed that I drew into, and I wasn't able to be in your territory for Knight's Arcanum, which was part of my plan, really. I wasn't diving deep into your territory. I was trying to play off, so I kind of knew that like Knight's Arcanum, if it came up, I probably wasn't scoring. And I still have Sudden Demise because I didn't have the pings in my opening hand. So I keep all of these because I'm 2 ahead right now. I feel like this is a strong, like, if everything goes well in the second round for me, this hand kind of puts me so far ahead that it probably kind of closes the door a little bit. So that's my thought. And then I draw into a full new grip of power cards, which feels great. I've got Sorcerous Might, which is just add Grievous to spell attack actions, but it can't move the damage characteristic beyond 3, which is fine because none of their spells do go beyond 3. I've got Blaze of the Heavens, which is one of their better pings because it is a very long range ping. Minimum, it's range 3, but you can, if all your fighters are alive, you can make it go all the way up to range 5. I've got Pass the Mantle, so I have that free Change Inspire, which is cool to have that option. Scrolls of the Spellseeker, which is a ridiculous card. This just changes. Whenever you attempt to cast a spell, you make the symbol in the casting value channel.
Yeah.
Just all your spells become channels, which is, it's an accuracy buff. It makes your Gambit spells more likely to go off. It combos with Abyssos Predatory Animus because now if you can hold that objective, you get an auto success on all your spells.
Oof.
It's really, really strong. It's been like probably top power card in the entire deck, which is kind of crazy to think that an upgrade instead of a Gambit is the thing, but that's what I have. And then Quintox Bubble, which at this point I'm loving seeing Quintox Bubble because I know you're sitting there with a one-shot kill potential. So being able to technically add a wound, but not actually add a wound feels like a very strong thing to be able to do.
Real good. So we are dicing off heading into round 2. You take it, and what's your opening decision here?
So my thought is I'd like to slam the door on this game and kill the wielder before you get a chance to do anything else. So Sarpon's still inspired. He's got the reroll. He's got Ensnare. So I'm like, hey, I've done it twice. Why not make it 3 times? Let's just go roll up there and roll another crit. And that's what I'm going to try and do. I move myself into a position where if I want to, I can Sarpon charge, inspire Leona, play Pass the Mantle. When Sarpon then inspires, he can push onto this objective in your territory.
Yeah.
So I'm ready to go, take a shot, and we actually whiff. I reroll, get a crit, which is like, okay, great. I managed to get the crit. Yeah. But you managed to get the crit and save yourself because, man, that would have been deflating if you had gotten blown out by 3 crits in a row.
Yeah. I mean, this was exactly the right play. Like you made the move that was slam the door. And with the new charge rules, like this really reshapes the nature of these games. Where now Sarpon is sitting in a situation where he has range to 3 of my fighters. And I know that as soon as Leona charges, now Sarpon is ability to attack any one of those 3. So it's a lot of pressure on me.
It's not necessarily something I was thinking about a lot in the moment, but now that you say it, that's absolutely true. And if we were in a situation where the charge rules were not how they are now, I'd probably make you go first.
Yep, I agree. But now I'm coming in my second, and like I'm looking at like, all right, I got Sarpon is still inspired. I got Leona potentially coming in. But what I really need to think about is bumping Sarpon out of range here.
Mm-hmm. But then in the power step, I do put out Quintox Bubble because I know that I just put Sarpon into a kind of a dangerous position.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned, with a reroll, it's pretty much automatic. He's just going to get this. So he does. So he's now reducing damage by 1, which...
Yep. I throw out Cackling Nightmare, and this is a misplay, I think, a little bit. I think I was... at the time, I'm looking at this objective in my hand, which wants 2 condemned counters out there. And I was like, all right, like maybe I can splash 1 condemned and 1 condemned. Like that'll do it. If I can get lucky, I can knock Sarpon out of range, and that then you are in a little bit of a problem situation unless you got to push. If I pop Sarpon to a spot where he is now charged and is out of range, you counter.
This is actually a bad play for me. I shouldn't have done this. There was no reason for me to put out Scrolls of the Spellseeker yet. And if anything, I should have played Scrolls of the Spellseeker before I played Quintox Bubble. But I, for whatever reason, decided to put it out there now.
Yep.
It won't benefit me on your turn, so I really should have just held that information back.
Yeah.
There's really no reason to play that. So it's just a bit of a mistake.
Yeah. And here's where I start to realize like I'm in a little bit of logistical jam where Sarpon, I need to get him out of my hair. I need to try to get 2 stagger or 2 condemned tokens out to try and get this objective just to get my engine going a little bit more. And then I'm starting to figure out like, like Scripter's ability, it's either going to be 2 attacks or one attack and a condemned. And then also I have the pressure of like, I need to knock Sarpon out of range. And so I think I end up playing Scapegoat on Sarpon to stagger and put a condemned on Sarpon. Wasn't terrible. I think in retrospect that was not the right play because my next thing doesn't really play well with that. I'm getting ready to do this, but you actually counter with another gambit.
Yeah, I counter with another play because I realize it is open to me in the moment. It wasn't something I was planning towards, but then I was like, wait a minute, Sharpener is vulnerable. And I've got a ping in hand. So I go ahead and go for that cast. And this makes my previous mistake of playing Scroll of the Spellseeker much better because then it's easier to cast this ping. Once I finally realized it was open to me. And so then I very easily cast a single channel Blaze of the Heavens and just blow the Sharpener out of there, which is sort of a double blow too, because you had already put the Cursed Boarding Pike on the Sharpener.
Yeah, it feels rough. I was trying to figure out where that boarding pike would go. The Sharpener is the one who benefits most, but resurrecting anyone using Terminus means you bring him back with 1 wound. So in retrospect, that was not a great play on my part because it just basically gave you a even juicier target for your pings, which I know you have plenty of. And that gives you like a 3 glory power phase kill. So you're really in the driver's seat at 8-3 at this point.
Yeah, sudden demise is pretty rough here.
Yeah. I will say, having played against Ephelims a whole bunch, and a little bit of your deck and Pingifiers, I am pretty exhausted with with getting sudden demised or just pings in general.
There's a little bit too much ping, I think, going on right now.
Yep. Having not gotten the first activation is now my attempt. I finally have the chance to get Death Soldiers out, which I do. Not that it would have changed anything because you missed your first activation. Here's where I go with the bear, or not the bear, the scripter. Managed to get one success on Sarpon, who also gets one success. So I don't get any damage through on Sarpon, but I do manage to drive him back out of range, which is pretty important at this point.
Yep.
And then I am in the situation where I still can't score that objective, but I roll off, get a crit on Leona. So I managed to land 1 damage on Leona and stagger her and get her a little bit farther away.
Yeah. So this is a bit of an awkward moment for me because now Leona's very out of position and isn't inspired, because I chose not to do the thing where I was like, I can sort of flip the inspires and push Sarpon onto the objective right away, which I guess probably wouldn't have been that strong. But so anyway, what I have to decide is like, what am I going to do? I need to be activating Leona in this next activation. And so what I choose to do is I'm going to play out Sorceress Might, which gives Leona Grievous on her spell attack. And then I'm going to use Pass the Mantle to inspire her so that she can do a long range charge because she'd be up to speed 5, and then try and take the scripter out now that you've got this double tap thing going on with the scripter.
Yeah.
So that's the plan.
Yeah, this seems like a really. I remember when I was like, everything's fine, nothing's a problem, and then Pass the Mantle came out. I'm like, oh no, yeah, things are a problem.
Yeah, and I guess I wasn't even thinking about Death Soldiers being out, but if it made you have to use it, I'm pretty okay with that.
And what you did was you charged Leona next to Sarpon, which meant that if I want to come after Leona, even if I kill Leona, then Sarpon is going to be able to just like shell whoever comes in because he'll be the only fighter on the board on your side, and he will have a charge token.
Yeah, so. What I was kind of worried about is you going after Sarpon more than Leona. Yeah. So I was like, well, at least this way, if you do, you've got to like try and get in there and do something about him. But it does allow me to... Anyway, so I charge, I miss completely, just full whiff, which is fine. I choose at this point, I care more about Sarpon than Leone, so I'm going to put Sarpon back inspired, so he's got the 2 block, and that then, because he's inspired, lets Leona get pushed. So I push her into cover, since it's like, well, we'll mitigate this ever so slightly.
Better than nothing.
Yep.
But that sets me up for like a little bit of a challenging situation where like, how do I capitalize on this without, now that you're both charged, once again, I don't want to get in with 3 of Sarpon because Sarpon is just going to like wreck house because he is looking at he's going to cast whatever he wants to cast. If I get within 2, he's going to do 3 damage because he's got great strength. If I get adjacent, his spell attacks are really good with Grievous and all that sort of thing. So it seems really tough. So I'm looking for like an activation that like doesn't put a whole lot at risk here. And that ends up being a scripter charge, which is successful, chips 1 more damage off of Leona. And we call that good.
Yep.
So.
And indeed, it scores you.
It does. So like, because I did it on my first attack with you being staggered, and that gets me another condemned counter. So that's 2 condemned counters. So I'm up another 1. I'm up to 4 to 8, and I draw into an objective, which actually, Tools of Death. This needs 3 of my fighters to have an upgrade. I do have that, but it's specifically 3 or more surviving fighters, so I'm gonna have to bring back the Sharpener, which is fine. But I spend the rest of the round trying to decide like when is the right, because I don't want to bring back the Sharpener just to get killed right away.
Yep.
If I can wait, it's a cool tension. I like this because like the earlier I bring back the Sharpener, the sooner I have the ability to get supports from him because there's great spots next to both your fighters. However, I risk if you decide that you're going to say like, yeah, we'll just kill a Sharpener again. then I block out Tools of Death and give you free glory. So the safest thing to do is wait till after your activations and then bring them in.
My activation.
So your turn, you put Leona on guard.
Oh, right. Yeah, I put Leona on guard because I was like, I don't have anything to do here.
Yep. So you chose not to draw a power card. You're basically on cycle objective, draw a card, draw a power card, or put one of your fighters on guard. And you basically unstaggered Leona by putting her on guard.
Yeah. In retrospect, maybe the power card's the stronger move here, but I'm not in range to play any of my Gambit spells. And if I draw into an upgrade, it's not it's not really doing anything for me at this point, probably.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of like, let's try and keep Leona alive until end of round 2.
It's not terrible. The only thing I might have said is that Sarpan might have been the choice on this because the rest of your game plan is clearly going to go through Sarpan. They're both staggered, and it's not a terror like the one activation brings you from staggered to on guard, which is actually kind of a big deal.
It's true.
But you do it on Leona. I attack with the bear. The bear whiffs. But with your stagger, it gets 1, but you block that. There's a block text here where I'm hoping, like, if I manage to at least drive you back, I can prevent a return attack from Sarpan because I can push you around the block text enough to prevent return attacks. But that doesn't play out, and that's not shocking. You're 2 defense, pretty good.
Yeah. So you put the bear on guard with a Gambit here. Is there?
Oh yeah,
just to try and keep him alive.
Yeah, well, because Sarpan is sitting on lethal damage here, right?
Right.
Because you're, and if I can keep the bearer there, that means I've got the ability to provide cleave to anyone that is supporting, aka the wielder is going to come in. So if I keeping the bearer alive, it's a really big deal here.
Yeah.
Because that's going to increase accuracy for the wielder. It's going to prevent you from scoring glory. There's a number of positive things available here.
Sure. Yeah. And so because he's just hanging out, providing cleave, doing his stuff, and is really hard to hit being 2 dodge on guard, I choose to actually go with the ensnare spell attack instead of the staff. Just because I have the innate success automatically. So just get in there and I'm hoping to hit and drive you back.
Which is a mistake because I'm on guard, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But I often forget about that rule. For whatever reason, that one just doesn't stick in my head.
Because you and me, we've been playing for a long time, bud.
Yeah.
It used to not be a thing, but you do manage to ensnare right through my double dodge defense. I roll 2 dodges, but that's not enough. So you do 1 damage. You didn't roll your grievous. It's not terrible. You set yourself up for like some better things down the line, and I think you kept your dice as they were for heavenly alignment.
Yes, I thought about fishing for the crit, but I figured I'll take the glory instead because I'm already ahead. So, the kill is worth a glory. Moving you towards the death really isn't that big of a deal here. One hit is not going to change things, or 1 point of damage isn't going to change things. So I'll take the guaranteed glory because I'd already rolled into it. So I get heavenly alignment scored, which will then draw me another objective.
Yeah, and I got Death Soldiers in play. So if you manage to do extra damage, I'm just going to reduce it anyway.
Yep.
Yeah. So what are you drawing to?
A somewhat unfortunate Knights Triumphant. This is the one you score if you've got 2 or more friendly fighters that have both taken the Harness the Ether reaction, which is the one where you inspire. And they are in no one's territory or enemy territory. So I've met the second condition, but technically did not meet the first because Leona didn't inspire off of the reaction. And I just took my last action. So I would have to choose now or I would have had to have already chosen, I think, to do the reaction after the activation before the score. And I didn't. So I realized, I was like, oh, well, I didn't play into my own cards. I guess I will have to sit on this.
Yep. And this is actually where I'm feeling like I've got a route back because you are done. You're out of power cards. I know you have no pings left. So it is safe for me to bring back somebody on 1 health. So I'm going to get ready to partial resurrection, which I do to bring back the sharpener for the second time. It's his 3rd life now. He comes back adjacent to Leona, able to provide supports there. And it's also setting up a situation for whoever I choose to charge with a wielder. I will score gather a crowd off of the fighter that I do not attack.
Yeah.
And this actually, I think we have a conversation, or if not a full conversation, like I'm like, hey, I am struggling to decide, do I try to kill Leona or do I try to lay some damage on Sarpon? And I'm not sure what the right choice is at this point.
Yep. It's tough.
Yep. And because they're adjacent to each other, I really wish I had Mighty Swing. Things that make this more complicated. I've got to support against both Sarpon and Leona. Sarpon is on 2 block. However, the bear is adjacent, so it's providing me cleave. Another consideration, if you can believe it, is that I am holding bound in servitude, which means it's a kill surge. So I can look at this glass half full or glass half empty, but I think I eventually decide that I'm going to swing on Sarpon, and some of that is like just to knock him back and then hope to get the first activation and then kill Leona in the next round.
Yeah, so you do get through, and it's a really good denial play here. I kind of expect it breaks my bubble and drives me off the objective. I really kind of expected you to kill Leona just to get the extra glory, but denying me a score is probably more valuable. So
because that was the other piece. I'm looking at like the person on the objective is Sarpon. So instead of 4 damage, I do 3 because of the bubble, drive you back off of that. And I'm thinking like, well, I can just scoop up Leona. She won't be on guard next round. I've got the sharpener right there. I can just keep rocking out.
Yeah.
I draw into All Rise. All Rise needs either 2 or more friendly fighters are raised or 1 or more friendly enemy fighters are out of action. And I have 1 friendly fighter with a raise. This is great. I just ran in, did some damage on your most important fighter, and I scored gather crowd for 1 glory and then drew into a 2 glory end phase. So feeling real good on that.
Yeah. So we go into scoring. I've scored first, and for whatever reason, I'm just thinking like, oh, I've killed enough fighters. I should have superiority confirmed. And then it's like, oh no, because they're not actually out of action anymore. They're all back. So
they're all back, baby.
And because of the drive back, I don't score anything in end phase. So you really did hamper me quite a bit. But as you mentioned, that 3 glory power phase kill on the first activation here really was a doozy. That's the majority of all my glory from this round. And it's enough to keep me pretty well ahead until
I score a total of 4 end phase here between All Rise and Tools of Death, which ties it up at 9-9.
Yeah. I was feeling a little comfortable, and then all of a sudden I was very much not.
Yeah, and this is a thing where I have all 4 fighters in play. Sarpon's 1 away from dead, but we're 9-9 going to this last round.
Yeah.
I pick up Earthworks, which feels doable. I just have to get somebody onto a feature token within 1 of No Man's Land. Not currently there, but it's a 1 action for 1 glory. I got Path to Glory. I've got my whole warband, or not Path to Glory, Path to Victory. I have Path to Victory. I have my whole warband available. If I can just kill somebody and do some movement. Like I'm feeling this is pretty scoreable, and I'm still carrying Bound in Servitude, which needs a Chain Rasp to kill or a Chain Rasp to support a kill.
Mm-hmm.
My power cards are Great Strength, which little excessive at this point. Unexpected Ally, it's an accuracy card, very welcome. Lurking Crony, that is kind of an accuracy card. It increases where I can support from, especially useful on the bearer, who can give me cleave without being right in the perfect spot. Reborn in Darkness, which is essentially a dead card right now, and Glory Seeker. So I feel pretty good about this power card hand. Phil, what are you looking at?
So like I said, I didn't score anything. I had drawn into a unfortunately timed Knights Triumphant because I did not inspire Leona. And I am looking at this situation and thinking, there's no way they both live to the end of round 3. So I choose to ditch that. I draw into Trace the Ley Lines, which is a little awkward because I realize that on your side of the board, we've got objectives 3, 4, and 5, which are not going to score that.
Yeah.
Little rough, but the power hand is very solid. I've got Healing Potion, which feels amazing right now. I've got Commanding Stride, which is also feeling very, very strong. Gives me lots of positioning options. Glory Seeker, which I don't need, but like I won't ever say no to having more damage. And then Quick Roots and Abyssos Screaming Idols, which looking at the board situation right now, Abyssos Screaming Idols feels very nice because I've got lots of options for moving feature tokens underneath your fighters to kill them.
Yep. We have an incredibly important roll-off for first turn. Like there's lots that's going to happen here. I roll single, double, double, and you beat double crit.
Get boosh. The one of everything. And I take... I think significant for this game. I take the choice of activation for each round, which is very, very powerful to have that option every round. I'm sure you all know how much that feels rough. And so I start things off with Sarpon trying to continue his success with his ensnared shots into the wielder. So I do manage to roll 2 successes and put 1 damage onto the wielder. I couldn't get the crit to happen, but then I have Screaming Idols and I can ping him out.
And this is essentially not quite guaranteed, but almost. Like
it's really close.
2 dice with a reroll, all only over 1 channel. And this is what I've been, fearing the whole game is like every time I get somebody vulnerable, they're basically close to dead. And now I'm in trouble because what little I know about this deck is that I do know that I lean on the leader, and the leader is now gone. I play out Unexpected Ally for a little extra accuracy, and that's to lock in a Sharpener kill here because the Sharpener is carrying around the boarding pike. You Healing Potion, and this is like backbreaking. I was like, oh man, like I think I might still have this because Sarpon is like close to dead.
He's still close to being dead.
I can knock him out with the right stuff. He managed to heal 2, right?
Get that juicy block and go back to only having 1 wound on him, which probably felt really bad because you now have to do 3 damage, which is 2 attacks at least.
It is, although in hand I have Glory Seeker and Great Strength, but I don't realize my situation, and I'm looking at my objectives, and I've got Earthworks, and I was like, okay, well, like I think I need to get onto objectives so that if I charge out, I can put the Sharpener on guard to get this. So unnecessarily, I charge the Sharpener backwards to spear Leona. Like I was already in a position where I could attack without charging, but I'm just trying to improve my chances of scoring Earthworks. I'm rolling 4 dice with single supports I get a crit success and take Leon off. Feels good. I score a glory and I score my surge. I get myself to 11. And I totally forget that I'm playing against Daring Delvers.
Yeah.
And now I've charged with a guy who's one away from dead, and I lose this fighter. And all of a sudden I've gone in one activation from you and one activation from me. I'm down to 2 fighters. And now I'm actually in trouble of running out of meaningful activations. And I think it was just too casual with this. I just forgot quick roots could be a thing. And what I really should have done is just stayed where I was at, attacked, and that gives me another potential threat to just knock out Sarpon, because I have Glory Seeker and I have Great Strength in hand, and I can apply those as needed to the Bearer and to the Sharpener to just really lock things down. But I was too busy looking at specifically my objectives in hand and not thinking about board state instead.
Yeah, it is probably fair though that Sharpener is in range of getting shot dead from Sarpon pretty likely.
That's fair, and part of this charge would take him out of spell casting range, spell attack range.
Yep.
So I would force you to charge.
Yeah.
So I know that was also part of this thought process.
Yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate I had the Quick Roots. Quick Roots is a devil of a card. I'm sure anyone who's played against it absolutely hates it, because it's oh, I'm going to be punished for playing the game. And it's yep, you definitely are. It's one of the reasons I think Daring Delvers is one of, if not the strongest plot locked decks, but it is
with certain builds, certainly
it is up there. So we continue, and I've got a juicy option here. I can then push Sarpon onto a starting hex with Commanding Stride, where he's adjacent to the Bearer, and it just gives me an option to just take the Bearer out in this next activation, which probably felt really terrible.
I really love Commanding Stride. I think this is an inspired pick for your deck building here, just because of the way you pass around the leader status. That just makes the problem with Commanding Stride traditionally has been it's restricted to one fighter, and if that fighter dies, you're done. But you have to be wiped out before Commanding Stride no longer has an ability to be played. So this is just an excellent pick.
Yeah.
And this, I think, makes all the difference. I entered this round with 4 fighters. You won the roll off. I made a understandable but poor choice, and all of a sudden I'm down to 2 fighters before your second activation, and you're coming in with a very high probability to knock out the Bearer, which you do. If I can somehow keep the Bearer alive, then the Bearer will have the potential. Basically, I can engineer a situation where the Bearer or the Scripter could do the trick to kill you. But you come in and
I take a bit
ahead.
of a unnecessary risk, maybe. But I put Glory Seeker on him before this attack, and then go with the Ensnare attack. Again, thinking I can fish for a crit, and if I happen to get it, I can just take you out, and I'm not charged. So if I don't kill you, I can still drive you away, and then I'm not in threat range to just immediately be killed. And I do manage to get the crit, and I do manage to take him out. So pretty rough for the ghosts here.
Yeah, and I can remember at this point. So what I've drawn into is contest to equals, and so I'm just hoping somebody fails an attack on equals, but it spoiler, does not come to pass. I'm now down by 2. It feels like I've got a route back. But it's the chances are diminishing. I'm sitting on Earthworks, I'm sitting on Contest to Equals, and I'm sitting on Path to Victory. Path to Victory is now unscorable because all I have left is a Scripter. I put Glory Seeker out on the Scripter, which now means that Scripter actually has lethal damage on Sarpon. I can charge. There's a block making it so I can't attack from where I'm at. But I can charge, and if I land both attacks, which is not great odds, because you're on 2 dodge, but I could potentially like just kill you. And I figure my consolation prize is like if I attack twice and one of them fails by the right amount, then I'll get contest to equals. I'm charged out. Maybe I can go again. I do actually manage to get this first attack through.
Yep.
Which is very nervous moments. You're 1 health away from being wiped out.
Yeah, I was like, oh no, am I going to lose this game?
Yep. And on top of that, the scripter inspired staggers.
Right.
I'm making the second attack on 2 smash versus 2 block, which is not great, but you are staggered. So 2 smash with 1 reroll. Unfortunately, I rolled no successes and reroll into no successes.
Yeah.
And now I know I'm in super trouble because all you have to do, you have not charged yet. All you have to do is drive me back by 1, and then I'm kind of at your mercy. But I still think maybe I got a chance. Like contest to equals might go if you like somehow whiff. I can go on guard. Like there's still, and I don't know the deck well enough to know for sure what I've got. But you roll, and you attack back.
I shoot back, and I continue doing what's been working, and I fish for crits.
Yeah.
With the reroll, it's like I don't need the reroll, but if I can get the crit, it's extra damage. So I'm every time just trying to get it, and
yeah,
I don't know. You roll enough dice and you hit them, but the crits were definitely flowing freely tonight. And
yeah. And, well, when we were playing it live, I felt hard done by these, but looking back at it in retrospect, it was not like out of hand. I mean, you basically every attack Sarpan made had rerolls in hand. He missed some important ones along the way. And so it wasn't, I really don't think it was as crazy as it would have been. And this one, like, it felt bad because you killed me in 1 shot, but really all you needed to do is drive me back, and then you've kind of got it squared away because you have some great cards in hand.
Yeah.
I have once I'm gone, there's nothing scoreable left.
There's sort of a weird moment where I was even considering, because I hadn't charged yet, I could theoretically have just stepped away. I was like, well, you charged already. I know you can't come kill Sarpan. You probably need to. Maybe I just walk away and just play it really safe. And that's in a tournament. That's probably the right thing to do, because if I whiff that attack, I leave myself open to losing Sarpan, which then loses me my end phase glory.
Yeah.
Which would be really bad.
I think that in hand, you eventually, after you kill me, you cycle out Trace Ley Lines. Yeah. But in hand, you have like 3 or 4 glory, which goes up to 4 or 5 glory after cycling. So the safest play for you to do is just walk away.
If I walk away, I'm giving up 2 of the glory, but after cycling, I end up with a guaranteed 3 that you couldn't deny, and I stay greedy because I don't know it. I was like, I've got it.
I mean, this is a pretty great odds attack of hitting. And like the kill is great, but really all you need to do is drive me back.
Yep.
So
yeah. So, we get to end phase. I managed to score my hand, which is 5 total. Puts me up to 19 to end the game.
Yeah. So we end on 1911. And there's a few activations to spare. And what I do is I draw, because I don't remember what could be in there. I draw a superior to confirm, which is my leader alive. In retrospect, I was like, what would happen if I drew my power cards? The very top card of my deck is the In-Faction Resurrection. You must serve. I could have brought back any Chain Rasp, and this does not require a leader to be in play. And so I it's shocking, but I could have brought back the Sharpener with his Curse Boarding Pike to try to finish off. You were definitely finish offable, but that being said, I think at that point, I think you still had it locked up because I would have needed to come back, kill you for a glory, I would have had to then move on to an objective and like go on guard to get earthwork. So I think at that point, like I had a way to keep it closer. I did not have a way to win. But again, I took a suboptimal play. Not that would have won me the game if I'd done it better, but would have kept it closer if I'd done it better.
Yeah. And I think and we mentioned it while we were playing, is it's just like, there's certain things that you just don't get right when you're playing a new warband. And one of those is like something as simple as this, of knowing like, if I'm dead, in the water and I need to find a revive, You Must Serve is always a live card. It's never gone.
Yeah.
So like, maybe fishing for that's the right choice. It's kind of hard to say. And great, it was right on top, but there were 4 cards there. So like, there's a chance it's not that, and then it doesn't help.
But again, like knowing my deck, I should have known that the only objective left needed me to have my leader in play. So there's no point in drawing for
absolutely.
that.
Absolutely. And that's one of those things where like, even with lots of reps, sometimes I struggle to remember what could be left in the deck. So
sure.
It is definitely that sort of next level play, which we are not at with either of these warbands. You need so many reps before you're to that level. So I think despite the end score, I feel like this game very easily could have gone either way right up until the end. It was really a bad sequence for you at the start of round 3 that it just all fell apart. Like, you were in such a good position and we were basically tied. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, I've got 2 fighters left. And
and at the time, and this is, it's not, I don't enjoy like pointing this out, but I think like, not to my credit, I was like saying I was kind of hard done by luck, but I had some unlucky things, but I also made some like not great choices in those early things. If I'd been more cognizant of quick routes being out there, I could have really improved my board situation. So I think bad luck I think bad luck and then capitalized with being overconfident in my board position really kind of made this evaporate for me and made me lose big in a game that was winnable. So, but it was fun.
Yeah, it was a good showcase. I personally still feel like the ghosts want to be more aggressive than the way we built them. But I think having played the 2 matches with them, there's nothing wrong with this build. I think it just has some bad matchups. And I think we highlighted that with 2 meta relevant matchups where Rippas basically gave you no good options, where they're just ramming down your throat and just being like, we're going to punch you and you better be able to deal with it. And I was like, hey, we're designed to be counterpunch. And there just was not enough counter in that punch to matter. And then the ability to just control the battlefield, I feel like in this matchup, and maybe, you should probably speak to it more because you were actually piloting the ghosts here, but it felt to me like I had a lot of ways to kind of control the flow of the game.
Yeah. You said there's nothing wrong with this build. And in broad terms, I would say, yes, I think you can probably do a Fearsome Fortress build that's okay. But I think I was missing accuracy. I think I delayed charging in with the wielder for quite a while just because I was too worried that even like 2 smash into 1 block, or 2 smash with support into 1 block, or 2 smash with a target staggered just felt like it's too risky to put my most important piece into a risky position without better assurances of success. So I think I'd like to try this build with a more aggro situation because, like, I don't know if it's matchup or not, but I felt that's the way I ended up leaning. I kind of abandoned some of the Fearsome Fortress, and then there were definitely cards that were just like a little too corner case or a little too cute. I drew Reborn in Darkness late, and that was just it was nothing. I thought the Confusion equivalent, that is Condemned Step Forward.
Yeah.
I had that in the first round, and especially against a low model count warband, I was like, man, this is a low model count warband with like extra range. I was like, this, I really just like, if this was sidestep, I would love it so much more. Like I had to work so hard to like make that produce.
Yeah.
So that's tough. And I thought the objective that required condemned counters to be out and about. And some of that's just like my lack of knowledge about the warband. I made some not great choices, but those are kind of my prime candidates for cuts are Reborn in Darkness. I might change Condemned Step Forward into just any kind of push. I had an opportunity, if I had Mighty Swing, when you had two fighters who were endangered next to each other. Oh boy. There was some opportunities to really close it out with that. And I think we talked about that, like the wielder, if you can increase the number of times that he just gets that extra swings with that sword, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
So I think there's just a little bit too much in this deck that needed combos of cards to really, really be hyper efficient. I think my preference would just be to put in stuff that's just universally usable, like pushes or some such.
I don't disagree. I have a lot of the same feelings after playing into Rippas with them. So that would be where I would go with them next as well. If anybody out there has experience playing them in a similar way to what we built and has better success, please let us know. We would love to know that is a thing that can work and what you're doing differently that we're not.
Or if you have a Headsman's Curse build that uses something else like Tooth and Claw or some such.
Absolutely.
As your plot lock deck, share that, and we'd if you're willing to get it wide, we'd love to get the word out about that. So
yeah, they're a really cool warband, so it would be fun to see them out more. I as I said, I only experience playing them is in these two matchups. So
well, all right, Phil, hats off to you for a well played game. I like to see a game where the person who is more familiar with their warband carries it out. Like I think you just played yours. I don't think you made any egregious errors with yours, and I definitely did so with mine. And so this end result is as it should be, with those factors being in play. So hats off to you. But I'm looking forward to more Headsman's Curse going forward.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap things up. We would love to hear from you. The place we do that most often is on the Mortal Realms Discord. That is the Discord that services our expanded network, all the shows on the Mortal Realms network. Thanks to the folks who post there. It's been great. We love to get your feedback here and chat with you there as well. If that's not your jam, you can always email us at whatthehexcast@gmail.com or at WTHcast on Twitter. I am a semi-Luddite, so I have not hopped on some of these other things popping up, threads or whatever it may be.
Internet strings or something? What?
Yeah, exactly. Some of our other folks, some of our other podcasts have done so. I'm sure we'll follow once I get my act together. But if that is all not your jam, you can just go to themortalrealms.com to see expanded content. I just want to throw this out there. I don't know how much of our listenership plays 40K, but we do have, we often talk about the other shows on our podcast, but we have a kind of a rarity, a Patreon exclusive show. Pavin's on there with his brother doing a show Patreon exclusive called Warhammer Pros, and that is using the excuse of 10th edition to dip into Warhammer 40K, and they are having that discussion about like what hobby projects they want to do and all that sort of thing. So that's super cool. I'm glad they're doing that. There's all the usual shows available to you. But what's coming up next? We're going to try and do a little broader perspective. Skylar has had a great idea to take a look at what decks are out there, what each Rivals deck has to offer, and why you might reach for one or the other. My understanding is it goes beyond just plot locked, but we're currently looking at 4 plot locked decks. That's Void Cursed Thralls, Fearsome Fortress, Daring Delvers, and Tooth and Claw, right?
Yep.
So definitely looking at why you might go one of any of those 4, and then what the other ones might or might not have to offer. Because if you're not playing Championship, you don't really care about plot locked. So if you're just doing that thing that we've talked about, moving from absolute beginner in the Rivals play to Nemesis, you want to know what's the next deck you should pick up. Phil.
Yeah.
I think you know what time it is.
Oh, man.
It is
Quiz.
It is time for the Flavitex quiz. I'm going to give you the following hint. All right, so Phil, this is a card that is in a deck that you helped build. This is your fault.
Okay.
Or is it? This might actually be a good card in there. Who could say? This is an unattributed quote. Not all there, but enough to kill you.
Ooh, I think I know what it is. Is it an upgrade? Let me start there.
No, it is not.
Ooh, okay. Nope, I don't know what it is.
Okay.
Enough to kill you. My next guess then would be, what's it called? It's an objective with
no, it's a gambit.
Oh, well, I think I've got one more guess, right? 3 strikes, you're out.
Yeah. It's going to kill you when you get it.
Wow.
It's restricted.
It's restricted. Oof.
All right,
nope.
We're going to let you have it. It's a partial resurrection.
Oh, okay.
Not all there, but enough to kill you.
You know what's crazy is I was thinking about like ghosts as the not all there thing, but like it literally means like they're not all there.
Yep. And I will say that felt like a really strong part of this deck was like the resurrection mechanic.
Yeah.
Between Terminus, between partial resurrection, and the gambit, I could have drawn but didn't. I was like, oh, this is actually a pretty powerful option that this deck has going. So,
yep.
Just wanted to highlight that. Let's see. For your recommended listening, we're going to go back to Frightened Rabbit. I think that's the second entry they've had in this playlist. And this is a tip to this warband that I tried out. This one's called Head Rolls Off. And that's off of Midnight Organ Fight. For What the Hex, I've been Davey.
And this is Phil.
And this is done by Paven with his brother. Is Warhammer Bros? Is that?
I'm not actually 100% sure what they landed on for a name. I know. Right. I know he was putting something together though.
I'm going to say it with a little more confidence here, and then I'll find out if I'm wrong. Actually, hold on.
Oh boy.
Well, I'm realizing I don't want to double dip on something that we've already done. Which is actually possible.
Probably a good
choice. That's why I keep a spreadsheet. Got to keep those spreadsheets, if for nothing else than to make sure that Aaron doesn't kick you out.
Appease the overlord.
Yeah, exactly.